Welcome to the Freight Project podcast, brought to you by Cerasis, a North American third-party logistics company providing shippers transportation management technology and solutions.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Freight Project podcast. On today's podcast episode, Cerasis welcomes our very own Freight Desk Manager, Chris Longner. The Cerasis Freight Desk takes care of all of our shippers' customers' inbound and outbound routing services. You'll get to learn about Chris's background and what makes him uniquely qualified to handle a fast-moving team, improve our customers' experience, and help move freight inbound for our customers effectively. On this episode, Chris will explain why having a logistics partner that is dependable is important and what are some metrics we use at Cerasis to make sure we provide that true partnership to our shippers and their vendors. Chris and I will then discuss not only his love for the Chicago Cubs, but of course why shippers who focus on developing their people and processes in the pursuit of continuous improvement gain several benefits in effective transportation management. Chris then pivots to some important tactics that shippers can follow, such as how to lessen missed pickups and issues shippers may have while freight is in transit. And Chris and I will conclude our conversation talking about why it's vital that shippers have a system in place or processes to effectively manage inbound freight. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Freight Project podcast. And I'm looking forward to hear what Chris has to say here on the Freight Project podcast today. Chris, thanks so much for giving us your time, and we're really excited to hear your insights and what you do here at Cerasis to bring some value to our listeners about how maybe they can tackle transportation management a little more effective. So let's kick things off with getting to know who is Chris and what do you do here at Cerasis?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Adam, for having me on. I appreciate it very much. Yes, my name's Chris. I am the Freight Desk Manager here at Cerasis. I've been with the company for approximately 2.5 years now. The main focus of my role is handling inbound communications from our customers' vendors. So these are shipments that are coming from the vendor inbound into our customer. They're contacting my team with the information necessary to complete the bill of lading, origin destination locations, commodity being shipped, etc. But the work there for my team doesn't stop with just creating the bill of lading. We also handle missed pickups by our tracking department. So if there's issues with carriers not coming to a certain location, if there's issues with missed pickups, just in general, my team follows up with the carrier and either reschedules them or reaches out to see if a new carrier is warranted for that area. But still, the freight hasn't delivered yet. And once the freight gets picked up and between that and when it delivers, our in-transit team, which reports to me as well, takes care of all of our customers' needs at that time. So that's including lost and damaged freight. That's including freight that was shipped to the wrong consignee. That includes accessorial additions while the freight is being moved in transit. So it's kind of a whole soup to nuts, start to finish group that that I work with, and they're a fantastic team that has customer focus and Cerasis in mind on every shipment that they touch.
Well, that's crazy, man. We provide a whole team to our customer shippers to do better at working with their vendors and get a process that, they can be proud of from an inbound perspective. And I think, just being in the industry myself now for about 6 years, one of the things that keeps pressing on me is that, shippers don't always consider the inbound side so much when they think about transportation management. They always, and that makes sense, right?
It does.
When you get an order, you want to ship it to your customer. That's kind of what you think about first. And that's probably what you should think about first. But, you could save a lot of money if you kind of use some of those things that you reference that our team does on behalf of our customers. So I said that I, have been in the industry for about 6 years myself. I didn't come from this industry.
Neither did I.
Yeah, you didn't either, and so you're having to learn all of these acronyms and what is LTL and what does that stand for, and the jargon, of course. But you do bring a good amount of experience from managing teams to handle customer service in high volume emails and calls. Isn't that right? So,
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about that. How you got involved to get to Cerasis, and kind of how that makes you pretty uniquely qualified to help customers with inbound freight.
Absolutely. I have worked in a contact center environment, whether frontline agent to supervisor to manager for approximately 15 years now. From graduation of college up until this point, I have spent nothing but my professional career in this industry. And when I say industry, I'm referring more to customer service, inbound contact center, not necessarily logistics. But my roles have varied, and my industries have changed from insurance to mutual funds, and now to logistics and being a part of a 3PL. But it still doesn't change what the end customer is expecting, and how quickly they want it. The romantic idea anymore these days of a customer service phone agent being someone that you have casual chit chat with, that you want to hear about the weather and things like that, that's ultimately kind of coming a thing of the past. And what I'm driving my team forward to try to do is to incorporate excellent verbal and written customer service skills, but also do it with speed and with accuracy. And that is what the modern consumer has been looking for, is a marriage of speed and accuracy with a personal flair and touch to it. And that's what I've dedicated my career, not just at Cerasis, but in all contact centers I've been a part of to ensure that we're doing. So yes, even though you're right, my career path to Cerasis has been checkered with different industries, it's still all the same show, and that's that fast, accurate service with a personal touch.
That's awesome. I mean, for the most part, when you call up to a big company, and Cerasis has grown significantly, nearly doubled in size since I got here, actually. Yeah. And so, some big corporations, some big companies, as they grow, they kind of give up that personalization, and they kind of go, well, that's just what we have to do. We're bigger, and we got to serve thousands of customers. And I think that's pretty neat that our shipper customers have a strategic and tactical partner, and that they can reach out in any way, but it's still personalized, but it's efficient.
Agreed. And I want to comment on that real quick, Adam. Yes, the standardization and efficiencies, I would just be a bad manager if I didn't think that those weren't important, and those weren't top of mind. But we have standard procedures and standard practices, but man, we got a cast of characters too, and to take away to take away their voice, to take away their understanding of our customers because of their tenure and how skilled they are within the logistics industry, would also just be, wouldn't make sense for what this company stands for, and ultimately what our customers and vendors are looking for.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. People still love doing business with people. It's a technologically driven world, and we have a technology platform, but people still like doing business with people, and I think that's pretty cool and pretty unique for a company of our size. And so you talked about that personalization, and so your mission, you're dedicated to it. Those are some awesome words to hear, and a breath of fresh air. So kudos to you. But
thank you.
A lot of shippers, are out there, trying to do the best they can. There's a capacity crunch going on, and so they're, increasingly turning to companies like Cerasis as a strategic partner to aid them, in filling any gaps in the resources that they might have to better effectively manage transportation budgets and processes. So why do you think having a partner that is reliable is important, and what are some of the metrics that you use to make sure we provide that true partnership to our shippers and their vendors?
Absolutely. That's a great question, because, a contact center, inbound contact center, customer service environment is built a lot on sustainable and scalable metrics. And what I found here at Cerasis that best meets that partnership that you're referring to is, once again, referring back to my previous answer, speed and quality. How quickly are we addressing your phone call request? We don't want our vendors sitting on hold waiting for someone to pick up the phone. How quickly are we addressing the email? We have our in-transit team and our tracking team are dealing with a lot of direct client-facing issues of my department, and we don't want those emails sitting in the queue for too long. So we monitor how quickly we're answering requests, and then once that request gets answered, we monitor how accurately they're being processed. And we do quality checks. We have spot checks. We have internal feedback from other departments that may see a quality issue that we can address and train and coach on. So those are some of the main metrics that we look to when assessing how our department is doing and what our success rate is. And those ultimately, in my opinion, lead to us becoming a more dependable partner. If we're not leaving things out there to sit idly by for hours or days or minutes on end, and then once we do get them, are we processing them accurately? And that's dependability to me.
Yeah, I just love that openness of your department. It's key for us to focus as managers on developing our people. Some of us love doing it. Some of us struggle with it, but it sounds like you really focus on development of your people and your processes. In fact, that's a core value here at Cerasis, continuous improvement. And I think, again, having been here for 6 years, my goodness, we really believe in that and we really practice it. So why is this something that shippers should consider for their own staff? And what value do you think development of people and processes brings to any organization?
Sure. To speak regarding my group and the value that we've brought to Cerasis since I've been here, we don't have the world's largest contact center, but we have a really tightly knit one and a sound group. And since I've been here for 2.5 years now, I've been able to move 4 people out of my department into other areas of the company where they can expand their knowledge base and expand their career trajectory and path. So I look at that as major successes. Yes, I'm losing qualified individuals to go to other areas, but they're staying within Cerasis. They're going to more high leverage positions and situations and taking that knowledge that they gained in the freight desk to do so that when the rubber really hits the road, that you're dealing with somebody that has put in the time, effort, and has the knowledge to properly handle a vast array of vast number of situations. If you take that, you can apply that to that knowledge base that I just laid out. You can apply that to any industry. And with our partners, our customers, if you build from within, you are keeping your top. You are motivating and keeping top flight frontline employees to see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel if they want to move into different positions. And when they move into different positions, they still have the understanding and the knowledge and the wherewithal to make process improvements for back on the front line and to better provide a voice to the front end agent. So to me, it helps in any industry to promote from within, to value development, and to seek it out whenever possible. There's always going to be times that you need to bring in a hired gun. I understand that, but the development from within is how you. Well, let me use a baseball analogy. I'll cut myself off from rambling and go straight to a baseball analogy.
You love that, man. You can't help
exactly. I love rambling.
Cubs always make it.
Exactly. I love rambling. I love baseball analogies. Let's look at the Chicago Cubs, the Houston Astros, and how they built from within to win a couple of the last most recent World Series. It's about development in the minor leagues and then developing that talent and bringing them up to the major league levels because you're training them the way that you want them to play or to work. And then you're putting them, in low leverage situations like in the minor leagues, and you're placing them in high leverage situations like the major leagues. And you see the success because you've developed them through each stage of the game. So, maybe a little bit of an overblown analogy, but I think my point's made in kind of how you can see a lot of success from internally developing your staff.
And you can't miss a baseball reference.
No, never. I can miss a fastball, but I can't miss a baseball reference.
Yeah, work on that swing, right? Well, it's great to kind of learn about, what your passion is, what you do here at Cerasis, what value that brings the company and our shippers. And so let's, switch some gears and talk a little bit about, we always like to here on the podcast, see if we can get some tips for shippers that they can take away. So let's talk about some tactics that shippers, might be able to get from your team. They're facing one of the biggest obstacles that they've faced in a while. It's a winner's problem in a way. Economy's good, freight volumes are high. We just saw, our record-breaking shipment volume yesterday, along with record-breaking calls from your department.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of freight out there, but there's not a lot of drivers and capacity is increasingly hard to find. So what can shippers do to lessen things like missed pickups, and maybe what can shippers do to lessen their number of issues they may encounter while their freight is in transit? Because I know your team works on that quite a bit.
Absolutely. Let's start first with missed pickups. And you're right, with the capacity crunch now, there are some things that are just out of the shipper's control, out of our customer or our vendor's control. And we understand that, not to repeat what you just said, but yes, it's due to the capacity crunch, it's due to the shortage of drivers, and we've all heard this before. But there's a couple of just basic things that, that we reiterate to our customers and vendors over and over again, and that really helps to kind of reiterate some of the basics of shipping that would be helpful for me to pass along to our listening audience. There's three things really. First one, double check the bill of lading for the addresses, making sure the origin, the consignee are correct, the date is correct, and what is being shipped is correct. The assumption that your pallet amount changes substantially and you will just throw that extra amount on the carrier when they arrive hurts in two folds. One, you don't know if they've got the volume to take on your extra pallets, and two, it's causing issues down the line because what they thought they had capacity for 2 or 3 stops from yours, it's now dwindling. And then what happens if you were in that position yourself? Someone ahead of you throws on 9 pallets when they thought they only needed 3. And so just understanding what you're shipping and having the bill and notifying the carrier ahead of time appropriately. So the second thing is make sure your freight is ready when you say it's going to be ready. If you're gonna be able to ship between 2 and 4, have your freight ready at between 2 and 4. Not having it ready until the next, later that night or the next day, damages relationships with carriers, and it hurts their efficiencies, and it hurts them not picking up your freight, but once again also getting to other locations in time. Electronically, third and final thing is electronic transmission of your pickup request to the carrier versus calling the carrier yourself to schedule the pickup. EDI or electronic transmissions are fast and efficient, but if there are any extenuating circumstances that would preclude you from wanting to send an electronic transmission over, please call the carrier and schedule the pickup with them over the phone. I know extenuating circumstances is a bit of a vague answer. It's intentionally vague because what those circumstances are, such as length, size, weight, destination, pickup location, etc., varies by carrier, by location, by terminal. So it's hard for me to pinpoint exactly what some of those are. But, if you're dealing with large, bulky, freight that needs straps in a flatbed, chances are electronically sending in that pickup request isn't for you, and that you want to pick up the phone and call them, because once they get there, the driver may be like, I can't fit this on my truck. Or I didn't know you didn't have a lift gate, or I didn't know you didn't have X, Y, or Z, can cause issues in terms of your freight not getting picked up. So those are my three reasons. Three things that you can do to ensure that your freight doesn't get picked up, and those are things that are within your control. Regarding in transit, once again, I got 4 items that I think are, and some of them overlap the first one, but to help mitigate issues that arise while in transit, it's best to, one, like I said before, double check your bill of lading for address, date, and you have the right amount of items being shipped. A correct bill of lading will obviously help freight not being sent in the wrong direction. Pretty self-explanatory, like I said. Second thing you can do that's within your control to help reduce in-transit issues is be upfront with accessorials. Do you need a lift gate? Are there notifications? Is this a residential delivery? Is this going to a limited access facility? All of those things could cause, if you don't notify us up front, could cause delays while in transit, because the carrier then needs to get authorization to do some of these moves. They need to get authorization on price increases, etc., in order for some of these movements to happen. If you have any questions about, and Adam, you'll love this shameless plug, but if you have any questions about where you can get information about accessorials, check our blogs, check our Talking Freight series. We have a lot of great information about accessorials and how they're kind of a silent killer in terms of the freight world.
And future podcast episodes, too.
Exactly. I got a team of people that would love to talk about accessorials.
Yeah, well, we might have to have them on. Absolutely.
It would be a nice panel discussion about accessorials. Absolutely. But we'll take that one offline. Getting back to the subject at hand. Third thing, appointment deliveries. Making sure that you have contact information that's correct, that you have contact information, period. Because the drivers need to schedule those appointments with the proper contact. And if they don't have it, your freight's going to sit around until we can track down who is a proper point of contact. And last thing, it's not a requirement. It's a nice to have on our end. It's a nice to have when you're filling out your bills of lading. But include the dimensions on all your shipments. If you have it, great. If not, once again, not a requirement. But that goes a long way in terms of us being proactive in trying to sorry about that, guys. I'm a popular guy. My phone just rang. But that goes a long ways into making sure that if something does happen with your freight, that you are we have that first step in place for lost or damaged freight, that we know how big it is, what it is, and where it was going, so we can help track that down. So those are my 4 things that you can do to help with in-transit issues. Once again, not the main things that cause for in-transit issues we can't control, but these are some things that we can.
I love it. Well, I think those are great tips. Thank you for that insight, Chris. And Chris is so busy handling those calls that he has them on the podcast live. How about that? That's why podcasts are a little more fun. They're not just polished marketing pieces. We're real people here talking about real things.
Exactly.
So Yeah, it happens. I love it. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your insights. This is some really, great information. And everybody listening to this, thanks for listening and getting to the podcast today. We can't wait for you to hear some future episodes as we continue with the Freight Project podcast, specifically with our Ask the Expert series that we're doing now. Chris, thanks for all you do here at Cerasis and for your time today. I hope you have a good one.
Thanks a lot, Adam, and I can now check off my bucket list that I have been on a podcast. So thank you very much for fulfilling a lifelong dream of mine.
I'm here to make dreams happen. Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.